All right, everybody, let's get started. It's 7 o'clock. The City of Cotulla Council will meet for a regular meeting on Thursday, September 8th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Alexander Convention Center, Conference Room 290, North IH 35 Access Road, Cotulla, Texas. This is an open meeting subject to open meeting laws of the state of Texas. Roll call. I believe we have Mr. Alejandro Garcia. He called in, so I need a first motion to approve and excuse Mr. Garcia. First motion by Mr. Zertuche, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to, will everybody please join me to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizens to be heard. City Council cannot discuss any present issue, nor may any action be taken at any given issue at this time. Ms. City Secretary, is there any citizens to be heard?
Yes, there is.
First one is Ms. Dahlia. All right, Ms. Killen, if you want to say a few words. Okay. Hi, Ms. Kim.
Hi.
Welcome.
The reason we're here today is because we want to move our game room to a different location. We recently had somebody break in, and we would like the fee waived for safety reasons.
Anything else you want to say?
No,
So it's just for, well,
just for safety reasons.
safety, okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Moving on to item number 5, Departmental and Committee Reports. Code compliance.
Good evening. In my report, you'll see 5 properties that were sent notification letters regarding issues with nuisances regarding the weeds, brush of grass, and other miscellaneous items attached. And then the second section below is the second set of properties where secondary notifications were sent to those property owners as well. And then towards the bottom, you'll see properties working in compliance or in compliance. You have approximately 4 properties that have worked in compliance and are working on the issues that they have on their properties. And attached to the back are several of the gaming establishments that are in town that were sent notifications regarding the implementation of the tag that's to be attached to the machines. And there's a couple there that aren't listed. Those establishments either were found closed or not operating at the time. So I'll be following up with those at this time, shortly after.
Yanka, does the new software that you're buying have a section for code compliance? And so he won't have to be making up his forms. They'll already be pre-printed in a template so that he can use them automatically.
Yeah, I believe you did the demo with them, right, when the new software they were playing?
Yes, you'll be able to document.
And the second set of plans of houses that you have listed, you need to list them at the next meeting so that you can start the 30-day counting, that if they don't respond within that 30-day period, they all become legible to be torn down.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Councilman, any other questions or any questions?
Yeah, I have several of them.
Okay.
You mentioned on your reports or towards the end, you have 7 locations in Maquinitas. When do you specify, because it doesn't say here, that you're going to start implementing those tags?
The
30 days.
30 days?
They all renew in October with the exception of one of them.
So, like the exception that is already there, he can already start that one, right?
It depends on what you decide tonight.
Did we get the new stickers already also?
Oh, yes, we have
Yeah,
the stickers,
he's got
everything.
everything.
It's a matter of implementation and finding how to put those in place as far as either either if we do them now, then we'll be just wasting money putting them on the machines, because you're gonna end up with a new permit,
The
because
best
you're
time-
renewing the permit every year.
I think the best time is when you renew the permit, right?
Yes,
That way,
or you establish a new,
that's established.
So when is it gonna be?
30 days.
In 30 days?
But my question is, even though they just recently did it,
No, this is a different one. The majority of them are all gonna renew October.
October, except one or two that
Yes.
are already just
And-
paid.
And
recently.
we'll deal with that depending on what you do tonight.
Yeah, okay. And another question, you do have a city phone, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, because I called you in regards of this question, because I'm notified Mr. Dovalina on Friday and Mr. Pena also on Friday. I left a message on your phone, never returned the calls till now. I was just wondering if you need to answer your phone. Whoever may call you.
Well, if I was home, I may have been home already and put that phone down, and I did not answer that phone till Monday or Tuesday, whenever I come back to work.
Yep, that's why I left a message, so call me whenever you get back to the office. So today is Thursday, so you should have called me Tuesday or Wednesday,
Yeah.
but I never received a call. But just be aware that whoever calls you, it may not be me, maybe be
Yes.
somebody. Just answer your phone, if you don't mind. And one other thing is, how do you implement, like for instance, to say if somebody needs a demo to clean out the property, how do you set a price on that? Do you have like a
It's something
sharp
that,
or
it's something that I
It's up
coordinate
to
with
the
the street department.
But does the city have a chart, like by the
We do
length,
not.
width, height?
We do not.
It goes by containers, right, Mr.
Yeah,
Rodriguez?
it depends on how many
This-
containers we believe are gonna take to get rid of the property.
Yeah, and depending on what kind of structure it is.
Yes, we generally don't do anything related to concrete because the waste that is in the container is paid by weight. And so we try to stay away from concrete. So we'll knock everything out with the exception of the concrete.
Is there any possibility that we can, the city can create a chart by size or weight?
Well, every structure's different. I mean,
We-
obviously,
We can take a stab at it and maybe go by square footage or something. And
Because
maybe
I know that people go and approach the city with a trailer full of debris to go dump at the landfill. But they may,
Actually, we're gonna have a cleanup on Saturday, and they're welcome to come with anything they got,
yeah,
with the exception of concrete.
correct.
And I don't think any other city on the I-35 corridor does that except us.
That is correct. That is correct. But if you can implement something so we can have,
We can take a stab at it.
okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been,
That's it.
we've been using estimates with Robbie and whoever he uses as well, and so far we've been successful at that. They can
Generally-
range anywhere but between what, 1,500 and 2,500.
Yeah, I don't think we've gone much higher than 1,500 with one or two exceptions.
Yeah, the reason I'm bringing this up because what is to say that one of the backhoes or one of the loaders has a big flat tire and it costs them over $500 to repair that tire, give or take, because
That happens.
and a hose breaks, and so we can, I guess, go a little bit more or something like that. That's
Yeah,
what I'm asking.
we don't take that into account. And in fact, we've talked about putting foam in our tires, but then our warranties go out because of the weight on the tires can break the axles. But we can look at it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Any other questions for Mr. Garcia,
No, sir.
Councilman? Mr. Garcia, thank you very much for that report. Next one would be water and wastewater.
Good evening, council and Mr. Dovalina. Really don't have much to report on the water side. They did do the irrigation and the seeding at the new elevated tower, so that's been complete. That project's been complete. So if y'all have any questions on the water, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
On the water, we lost 2.16 feet,
Yes, sir, from last month.
and we didn't replenish any of it. We didn't recuperate from.
It's the aquifer's going up slow, but it doesn't recover very fast from what we can see.
Yeah,
Okay,
it'll take a month or two for the water
water
to
to simmer
flow
through.
from the outcrop around Uvalde to come all the way here. And so you won't get to know for another couple of months.
Councilman, any other question for Mr. Jimmy on the water?
You all are working on those projects on those roads. I believe it's Baker and what was it, Guadalupe?
We worked on them before when we found out that those roads were gonna be worked on.
Okay.
And we've asked the contractor not to use a vibrator.
Correct.
But we replaced a bunch of lines.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that one we.
And at the next meeting, we probably will try to close out the project on the water tower, since he's already indicated that the irrigation has been taken care of and that the fencing has been taken care of. And so we will try to close out in order to provide Texas Water Development Board with all the necessary documents to close it out.
Got a quick question on the location for the water tower. Is it possible that we can install a security camera there? Because every year we have wall hall cook-off, and so nobody can do any damages to that location, just safety reasons.
Do you still have a camera at the yard?
Yes, sir, we do.
And it's still connected to the old city hall?
No, it's a program that I have, and there's 4 of them there.
But you still have access to them? We have cameras around the yard.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So all the water wells are working good and everything?
Yes, sir. So far we've got them. Everything's been working.
The table of the water still
Yes, sir. It's
the
still
same
the
level?
same.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
No problem. On the wastewater, I would like to acknowledge Victor Thayes. He passed his wastewater test, and he has his license has already been issued, so he should be receiving that in the mail.
He's got a Class D?
Sir?
He's got a Class D?
Yes, sir.
Good.
And also on the wastewater, we have we're waiting to have a pre-construction meeting on the sewer line that is going to run from the airport down, I think to Guadalupe Street, I think it is.
Yes.
We're just waiting to have a pre-construction meeting for that one.
Well, you're waiting for Texas Water Development Board to give you the notice to proceed. Once they get all their documents and people in place.
I believe they had already received it because they were already signing the contracts last month. So I know Fernando told us that they'd already received it, so the notice to proceed. So we're just waiting on them to finish signing the.
Las ganas.
Yes, sir. That too. So that's all I have.
Any problems with the lift stations?
We've had rags clogging the pump still. We did have one incident where somebody had tampered with the meter and had connected straight to the meter, so we had to get the police and AEP out there for AEP to go out there and disconnected.
Councilman, any other questions for Mr. Jimmy?
No, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much for that report, Mr. Jimmy. Gas Department, do we have a report on Gas Department?
No, David's out.
No, David's out. Streets and Parks, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor, Mr. Dolania, City Council members. The City of Cotulla Street personnel demolished a structure at 1013 Hidalgo Street. The customer paid a demo fee of $1,900. Also, the City Cotulla Street personnel cut high grass, removed several mesquite brush trees and a small pile of millings from a property located on Marsh Drive behind Holiday Inn. Customer paid $1,000 on that. Also, under the direction of Mr. Doalina, some assistance from Mr. Garcia, the City of Cotulla rented a towable boom lift so personnel could reach and cut overhanging trees, limbs onto streets by utilizing the pole saw. And we've been doing that, and I think we just extended today another month on that boom. City of Cotulla Street personnel cut grass utilizing the Z-Track tractor and weed eaters on Golf, Baylor, Boutwell, Peckles, Civic Center, Mars Drive, Pool Street. And so just bear with us, and we're trying to get to all the locations where high grass is, and I know the crews are trying their hardest to get to that. Also, the City of Cotulla utilized the tractor with shredder to mow the grass on Highway 97 properties and the airport. Any questions?
I have a couple of questions on
Okay.
the boom that y'all are renting out. Do they have a harness?
Yes, I do.
You do? Also, when can we start the mosquito project? Spraying out for mosquitoes.
We actually had to fix a machine and it failed. And so I told Robbie today, when I found out, to order a new one.
Okay.
On Monday, the tech came again. I told him to come back again.
Okay.
He did, and he tried everything, and we still just can't get it to work.
Did it have any warranty, or it was out?
No, it's been
No, we've
nine,
had it
I don't know,
for
maybe 9,
years.
10
Yeah,
years
okay.
already.
Any other questions for Mr. Thomas, Councilman?
No, sir.
If not, thank you very much for that report. Sanitation, Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, council members, Mayor, Mr. Dovalina. My monthly report for August, we had 27 total rollout trips and 1 to the Texas Motor Salvage. We had 619,500 pounds of trash collected within the city of Cotulla. Last month we had 560, so it went up quite a bit. We also have 5 yarders containers, 32.72 tons. On the demolition house that Mr. Thomas explained on Hidalgo Street, that house total amount was 5.52 tons for the amount of 11,040 pounds came out from that house. We also have some scrap metal that was taken to the Texas Auto Salvage for 4.83 tons, which is 9,660 pounds. Also, as Mr. Dovalina said, we'll have a cleanup next weekend on September 17. It'll be at the Plaza Florita, and it will start at 7. And we'll be there until the containers get full. Usually they get full by 12 noon or so forth. And that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. Martinez, Councilman?
How are your trash trucks coming along?
They're back in service.
They're back in service?
They're all in service, yes, sir.
I appreciate that. That's it, sir.
Excellent. Thank you for that report, Mr. Martinez. Thank you.
Thank you.
Animal control.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of August, I picked up 18 dogs that were placed in a shelter. 38 of them were taken by different organizations around the area. and five dogs were euthanized, and I had a total of 4 work orders, two animals collecting traps, and 5 dead animals picked off the streets. Around the shelter, I weeded and cut the grass, clean and feed dogs daily, and sanitize daily. And that'll be all. Any questions?
I have one question. Do you need, by any chance, more traps to? Because I
yeah,
know they're going through wear and tear and all that.
Yeah, and it's the majority. Most of the time, it's constant people wanting traps, and I only have so many.
Is there any way that we can?
It'll be in your budget when you have a discussion on it.
Okay, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Main Street.
Good evening. In your packet, you can find that the Cotulla rabies vaccine drive will be held this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Veterans Park. We've had about maybe 45 to 50 vouchers picked up so far, and it is 1 per household. You do have, for Stockman's Bank, you do have the updated renders. You've already had these designed. It's just showing the actual colors and the furniture implemented in them, just so that you can see the colors and how it goes. And everything is for upstairs. As of right now, we had a completion date of approximately September 1st. Obviously, we're September 8th, or, yeah. So now we have a completion date of about November 1st, just because of the backlog on the AC, on the air conditioning. In your packet, you can also find the Plaza Florida parking and restroom designs. I don't know if y'all want to look at it, and then if you have any questions that I can answer for y'all.
Yes, this one, is there, due to security purposes, will they be gated, have a gate so nobody can go in? Or the doors will be locked, or?
Where?
For these restrooms that she's saying about?
They're not gated.
But no, what I'm saying is, it has it has an entrance to go to the left or to the right. Will they have a gate to lock it during the night, or how would that work?
You probably would lock the bathrooms if they're not in use. They wouldn't be open to the public 24 hours a day.
Okay.
They'll only be open to the public during an event.
Okay.
But the goal for this little plaza in that parking lot is for people to actually go and sit down, and then the statue, the Florence Maltzberger that y'all had approved a couple months ago, it'll actually, you can see it in the design plans where it'll be placed next to the restrooms.
So,
You can, if you flip to the last page,
so
you can
it's
see
a
the statue.
combination bathroom and parking lot,
Oh, it's nice.
so that, and there, even though it looks kind of modern,
Yeah.
the idea was to try to match a stone in the plaza
Correct.
on the walls. That's what that stone is.
And we did go out there, and we do see that it is fitting to the neighborhood and everything else, and it would be about the same size as all the buildings. It won't be anything higher or lower than the buildings surrounding it. So.
And we're still trying to actively get pieces of the neighborhood together, because it has been approved as a historic district square. So it includes a school in the square, and it is one of the few Hispanic landmarks that are approved in the nation. There's only 2% of
2%.
2%.
Have they said anything on the church?
No.
Well,
The priest is on vacation and the bishop just got back.
And then I know, Councilman Ayala, you had questions about the restrooms and the actual, if events could be taking place at Plaza Florida.
Yes.
They can be, because this is going to take about 6 months to actually
Okay.
complete. And then we have to go through another 6 months to actually get approval from Texas Historical Commission to remove and demolish everything. So it'd be a long process before that. So I did, and the girls at the office do understand that bookings can take place.
That's good.
So in other words, Karina, we'll be having stonework done at the restroom location, right? stonework, like the original from the Plaza Florita, the benches and stuff? More
Yes,
big-
they're
what is
gonna,
it?
they're trying to match it, and they've gone out
20.
there and they're testing the concrete and everything
Okay.
to see what, to match it.
Okay.
And as far as concrete, I know that last meeting I touched base on the open lot next to Stockman Building on Front Street. We don't have design plans, they're in the works of being made right now, but they did, the leftover brick that was salvaged next to the red barns, they did take some and they're testing it to see how we can actually implement it, whether it be on the wall, concrete on the bottom or something like that. We're trying to see. But hopefully by next meeting, we'll actually have design plans for that, so. And as far as beautification on Front Street and the park, I know the park has been a long process and it's kind of green now that we have rain. We're looking for other options of irrigation systems and beautification projects for Front Street and the Veterans Park. So if
On
y'all
Fr-
have any suggestions for irrigation.
On Front Street, those buildings that are being opened, Ben's, Western Wear, and the adjacent buildings, what's gonna be created with the one that was just the empty lot in the back and had just a facade in front, just to protect the actual, do you know?
What we try to do is protect the facade of the properties. And so what they're doing is they're putting in what appears to be a reinforcing wall made out of concrete to protect the brick wall that's there. And they're gonna take all of the material that they had done and they're gonna put it back to restore it.
Okay.
And I don't know if they're gonna make a patio or something in between, but it's an empty lot. It's
Right.
always been an empty lot.
I know at one time we discussed that we were trying to do like a outside amphitheater for the kids.
That's on the property next to the Stockmans. And you would still need to do some sort of
The wall
a
retained
wall
facade.
facade or something, and then try to do something with the inside of it.
That is one of the options. They're just trying to see what works best and
Yeah.
what fits.
The main problem there is drainage, how you drain the water out, because the old theater has the
So slow.
ground going this way, and water accumulates over here and it doesn't go out.
Correct.
And so we need to figure out how to do that in order to continue doing something with those two lots. There's actually two lots that belong to the city.
Any questions?
Any other questions for Ms. Carina?
No, sir.
Councilman? Thank you very much, Ms. Carina, for that report. Now the last one, City Administrator.
I did pass out a map from TxDOT from all the LaSalle County projects that are listed in the tip for this year, 22-25. And the newest project that is probably gonna start sometime this week is the Main Street Business 35 resurfacing, which will begin probably as early as Monday with some signage and some things being put out saying that they're going to start construction, and you'll probably see some stripping and of the asphalt that's there. But if you have any questions, let us know, and we'll be able to move it forward. We paid $383,000 to get the gas line relocated on the frontage road, and we had to do that because of the project that is going on there. And we finally were reimbursed by TxDOT. They wrote us a check for the entire amount, and we did not submit the engineering cost, which we need to do the engineering cost in order to get that reimbursed and given back to us as well, because that's also reimbursable. We continue to do all the projects that are currently done. We're trying to finish Stockman's. We're waiting for the notice to proceed on the sewer line. And we're also waiting for the Texas Department of Emergency Management to issue us the money that we currently are owed from the CARES Act. We got, if you remember correctly, we got part of it, and now we're still awaiting the other part, the other half. We were entitled to $1 million, and we got 500,000. We're gonna get 500,000 more. We did a complete design of the emergency generator for all the for the 2 wells, and we were asked to submit to emergency management, and we haven't received any information yet. The closing date on that grant was June 30th, and so we expect to hear something anytime soon. We did submit also to them and to FEMA some money so we could do a pilot channel on Mustang Creek, and we're also waiting for that. We did all the work on the letter of map revision to get rid of the floodplain the way it was done. The last time that it was updated was in 67 or 77 or 57, I don't remember when. But we were going back and forth with FEMA, and they were arguing about they had a flow of something, and we had a different number, and they were haggling over things that concerned them. And it finally, they had another meeting, and we should be hearing something shortly where they approved the new floodplain map. We did take almost 400 and some odd properties out of the floodplain by explaining the channel and how it's supposed to work. And so it'll benefit anybody who is trying to build a house that doesn't have to pay for flood insurance and have it tied to their mortgage, which sometimes makes it pretty hard to mortgage and buy. And anytime you mortgage a property, whether it's a mobile home or a home, you end up paying flood insurance if you're in that area because of what they have. And after the roads are finished that are currently being done by the county, the drainage in that area is going to be much better. There are 3 drainage swales that have been completed that include all of that area. So you have hackberry, elm, and all those that flow better into the creek than they used to be. Robbie and his crew have cut the grass and maintained the creek well. So when it rained hard, the water cleared rapidly. There wasn't any stagnant water sitting, and that helps as far as mosquitoes, but you can't prevent all of them. But it does help to have it clean, and so that helped quite a bit. But that's all I have for now.
I have a question, sir, on this map. I know that you mentioned that TxDOT is in charge of this project. Will they be notifying the school that they'll be starting on Monday due to, I know the entrance to the RBE school is on Main Street, so I'm just wondering, will they be notified by any chance?
The entrance?
Yeah, for the RBE, the new school?
The exit and entrance?
No, that's not an entrance.
Will they have a way in and a way out?
Well, they shouldn't. It's a way out.
What?
It should be a way out.
But they considered it now an entrance and an exit.
Wow.
That's the way they go in. The employees go through there.
Well, that's a good way to have a problem.
Yeah. That's how they pick up their kids. They go through there and they go out. But in the morning, all the employees go through there.
Yeah, and you're allowed to use both lanes in the morning,
Yeah.
but still they can use both lanes. And you see the arrows, one
Yeah.
facing out and one going in.
Yes, that's correct.
Ni hablar, como es.
So I was just wondering if they can receive a courtesy call.
I will make sure they get noticed.
Okay.
Any other questions for the city administrator?
No, sir.
Not everybody, thank you for your reports on departmental and committee reports. Moving on to item number 6. We don't have the minutes yet, they weren't finished, so we are going to table number 6. Moving on to item number 7. Discussion and possible action on an ordinance repealing prior ordinance 2001 through 10 and establishing City of Cotulla Code of Compliance Officer and outlining the officer's powers and duties, protecting the public health and promoting the public welfare of the City of Cotulla, establishing rules and regulations prohibiting junked and inoperable vehicles, prohibiting unsafe buildings, and establishing requirements for the maintenance of lots, providing the city the authority to enter private property in order to investigate and remediate code violations, authorizing the city to file liens in order for the city to recoup its cost to remediate health and safety hazards by removing junked vehicles and providing for fines up to $200 per day for violations of such ordinance.
Mayor, I spoke to Mr. Dovalina Monday. He had asked me to look at an ordinance where we could tow vehicles from public rights of way, like put in like a 3-day sticker, the red sticker and the whole bit.
I want to say that we did that back in 2014, I believe. But it was any vehicle that was in the city right away,
Right.
which is the easement.
And I think that we have that authority. I mean, whether we have an ordinance or not, I mean, you can't park junk vehicles on a public road. But the reason that I put this on here was the code of ordinances for the city of Cotulla are maintained by a company called Municipal Code Corporation. And when I look at that, and I think I've brought this to the council's attention before, I'm concerned about the whether or not they've got all of the latest ordinances in there, and they should be doing that on at least every couple of years, going in there and updating things that we changed over time. So if you look online today, and you go look at the code of ordinances for the city of Cotulla, you will not find this ordinance in there. Yet, I'm pretty sure it was passed. I went back and did some research. I don't keep copies of actual signed documents. I keep copies of things that I prepare. And I believe this was approved back in 2007. And Conrad Longoria was here at the time, and Abel Gonzalez was the mayor. And I know that there were issues with things getting signed and, how things were being maintained at the time. But we actually do have this ordinance, whether we can produce a signed copy or not, I don't know. I think these are things that and in fact, I talked to Mr. Dovalina. I said, look, I need to see what we are sending these people. My records, and if you go online and you look under Municode, it says the last time they updated was 2015. It says flat out right there, updated supplement 2015, supplement 2. And I know the city secretary tells me that they've been sending them stuff. What they're doing with it, I don't know, because I know that there are things that are missing out of that code. That doesn't mean that they're not valid ordinances. They're just not in the code, which means nobody can go look online and find the stuff. They'd have to go down to City Hall, ask for it, know that we have it, and be able to get a copy. So, in the next couple of weeks, probably before the end of the month, I'd like to go and spend a couple of hours at the city hall and look at our ordinances. Why is this stuff not in there? There's editorial decisions that are made by the publisher as to what they put in and what they don't put in. If you had an ordinance, designating, the first week of Monday is, pizza day, that probably doesn't need to be, in your ordinances, but things of a permanent nature, especially anything with a fine or a penalty where you can enforce it. And so I don't know whether they're falling down on the job. There are other publishers. There's one other one that I'm aware of. There may be more. Typically, they're Municode and Franklin Publishing kind of have a monopoly.
And you'll meet them at the convention when we go to the convention. They'll both have a booth there.
And they'll be telling you that
they're wonderful people.
Everything's good. So
is this code ordinance? Is this where we're trying to go in people's property to investigate if they have any junk cars?
This actually creates a position of code compliance.
Okay. Actually, what we're doing is we're refreshing the ordinance so that it's clear to everybody what powers the code enforcement officer has, and the ones preceding this ordinance were done in 1987 and 1990, and so we're trying to upgrade them. But as Steve says, when you send them to Municode, they have the editorial license to do whatever they will with the ordinances. And if you're not satisfied with what they're doing, but you switch to the other guy. And we're in the process of doing a project in the office where we're going to go through the agendas, pull all the ordinances out again, make copies of them, and send them copies to see what they will do to respond to update whatever is currently there, and then we'll go from there once that is done.
So we can pull our minutes from 2007, and I'm sure this was approved. Now, ideally, there'd be a signed ordinance sitting in a file somewhere that got sent to Municode that gets put in the Code of Ordinances. Now, without getting too far in the weeds here, the ordinances that you pass here on a monthly basis, they'll be entitled, 2022 dash whatever. Bianca has a system where she numbers them. When they get them, they actually look at those ordinances. They look at our code, and the code's broken up by subject: buildings, streets, public way, different things, public works and stuff. So that they actually take that ordinance, fit it into the Code of Ordinances. Sometimes I've sent you stuff that says, adding section so-and-so to section. That's how you're supposed to do it if it's already in there. They could still disregard it and say, no, we think it needs to be over here. This ordinance is actually repealed by them, and then there's a single ordinance that codifies that under the new sections. So instead of ordinance 2022 dash whatever, it's now section so-and-so of the Code of Ordinances. And that's stuff you don't really need to know, but that's how they work. And so they may rearrange some words, they may, because when it's codified and they give it back to you, they say, hey, Mayor, here's the new Code of Ordinances. It comes back to the council, and the council approves them.
Right.
So it cleans it up. So I do have some concerns about it. All our annexation ordinances, they should all be in there, right? I went to the county clerk once. They said, show me the annexation ordinances. She had most of them, but I know there's some that are missing.
And we're going to take care of that too.
And from here to getting them signed, to getting them to them, to getting them where they go. Those are things that have got to be there, you know. And so 15 years from now, and none of us will be here probably, you know, the council that's sitting here is going to say, well, that's what they did in 2022, and it's not like having to guess or, well, we think we did that, or did we ever buy that piece of property, you know, and that kind of stuff that's gone on. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. So there's really nothing you need to do with this. I just put it on there so you could see that. See it. And I will work with Bianca, and I will, hopefully we can get this thing straightened out. So, because now that we have a website, anybody should be able to go up there and hit government, click, go to ordinances, click, you know, Alamo Lumber wants to come in here and build the thing over here, they should be able to get the latest copy of the zoning code.
Is that on our ordinance? Is that on our website? Is the code on our website? He doesn't even know what the code is.
It should be there.
Okay.
Because that's what businesses look for. They're going to send their lawyers out, or they're the business development guys, and they're going to go look at that stuff. And if it's not up to date, that's our fault.
That's what it is.
Excellent. Okay. Any questions for Steve on this? Councilman? None.
So nothing will be done to this one until...
No, it's just more of an informational thing.
Okay.
And this was kind of brought up, and I think that there are some things that need to be cleaned up. And we have cleaned up a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then it'll be brought back to us.
No. We'll figure out the mystery of what happened to this, you know, and at some point we'll, you know, it should be in that code.
Computers do strange things.
Right,
Yes.
Yeah, because I only had a couple of questions, maybe just one, because a $200 fine per day, maybe instead of charging $200 per day, then putting a lien on that property or something like that instead of, because the $200 per day, well, that's a never-ending battle because you're not going to get that money from those owners. So I'm saying,
if you see what's happened over the course of time, our interest is not in getting $200 a day from whatever. It's actually to get compliance.
Correct.
By cleaning or by doing what you're supposed to do. And the reason the issue came about is that if you go down Vela Street, there is a junk car in the middle of the street over where the creek is, without tires, without rims, without anything, and we can't do anything to it because we can't find the owner.
yeah, correct.
And as far as liens, putting a lien on the property, it's right here.
Yeah.
On the second.
Correct.
So we should be able to do that if need be. They don't pay their $200 if we still hold that amount for the fine.
Yeah. So to answer your question, council member, typically they'll say, well, every day you don't do this is another offense. I've never seen that done.
Correct.
But that's something you put in there, and you cannot put a lien on their property unless you've gone in and done the work yourself, or you get a judgment. Now, if you get a judgment against them in the court, then you can lien up the property to get them to pay the fine. But this is a problem every single city in the country has.
So when you make a list of homes and you want to demolish them, and you bring them to council and give public notice, and you put it in the newspaper, under the ordinance, they have 30 days to comply. If in 30 days they don't comply, then obviously you can go in and knock it out, even if they don't want to, and you don't have to ask them anything about the lien. You automatically put the lien. On an automobile, if it's in the right of way, it's one thing. If it's a junk car inside a lot, it's another thing. And usually the notices whether it's 3 days, 10 days, or whatever it is an issue of compliance. You have to sticker it, you have to do certain things in order to make it happen. And then you can tell the record driver it's yours, just pull it away and sell it.
So, dogs, potholes, and junk cars.
Well, we have way less potholes than 2010.
So again, this is just information.
If there's no further questions on item number 7, Councilman, we'll move on to item number 8. Discussion and amendments to Chapter 13 Amusement Redemption Machines Code and of Ordinance, City of Cotulla, Texas.
Okay, so this
On this one, did we see what other cities are doing on this?
was the ordinance was actually borrowed.
Actually, we just
other
cut and
cities.
paste from somebody else.
I think this was one that was being used in Poteet or something. Our office had drafted several of these. So this, if you see the way it's written, it says Chapter 13 Code of Ordinances. So in Muni Code, if you get online and look right now, look under Chapter 13, you'll see this sitting there. Now, I did have some discussions about this with Council Member Zertuche, and just to answer some questions that he had. I know code compliance officer had some things that he's doing, so I'm not exactly sure whether there was a desire to make some changes to the ordinance, but we put it on there so we could talk about it tonight. And Council Members Artucci and I had some good discussions about automating the way that we keep track of these licensed machines. Maybe using some technology where we have barcodes. We may already have them.
He's got them on the stickers.
Okay. And that way you know if one's being switched to another machine.
So
I think
the current issue is the software that we're purchasing, which will be in place by October 1st, I think, is when the final rollout is going to be done. Is that right?
It's only gonna be for finance, so it's gonna start with like payroll, accounts payable, like the finance part. Then once they get that up and running, then they'll start going to
Okay. The issue I believe, and the reason I put it on, was that there is a section of the code that doesn't permit the relocation of the machines to another location, because for the very reason that we don't have automation, it becomes an accounting nightmare. And if we do consent to allow, then we need to somehow limit the number of times that it can be done within a calendar year, so that we don't have something that we're unable to track. And in this particular case, I think there's another issue.
Safety.
And so people are wanting to move for different reasons. So the minute you make an exception to the ordinance, you set a precedent. That means that it's open to everybody. In the past, we've denied everybody and we've left it as it is. But you can make the exception, but Pandora's box becomes open, and then you'll have a slew of other people that'll ask for the same things. But it's really up to you. But just remember that when you do that, we need to keep track of the machines, and we need to sticker them to make sure that wherever they go, we can still track them, and that they don't repeatedly want to have an issue or make up an issue and move to another location and then move to another location within the same permit that they currently are using. But it's really up to you, whatever you want to do.
The discussion that I had with council member Artucha was, and he did inform me that he had some experience with TechStock where they could actually tag a sign and know where that sign was. You know, like if somebody, I guess they stole it. Or, you know,
Texas
took
has
it.
a lot more money than Cotulla.
I think having one person in your code compliance department to keep track of all those machines and the cat and mouse game, that those that would want to engage in such a game may be able to do, I think is asking a heck of a lot. And you're gonna need to use technology, because you can just take a sticker and put it on another machine. You're gonna go compare serial numbers. You may have to open the thing up to find a number in it. I mean, I don't know how they're registered. It's a problem, and it invites abuse because those permits are expensive. And you know, I don't know what the solution is, but I know you're asking.
Well, there's
a
not
lot.
very many people that have asked to move. I think right now, I've only had 2 people ask me. One of them, the reason was not a valid reason that they would get an approval from council to move. But I've had a customer that, you know, they were robbed, and sometimes that could be a valid reason to allow them to move. And only, it has to be some sort of a big reason. It can't just be just anything.
And not only
You know?
that,
And it should be brought to council, and the customer can speak to the council, and if council approves it, then so be it. But it should be done as an individual basis, with only certain exceptions, and only maybe one time a year, and that's it, or one time every 2 years, or one time every 3 years.
You know, so then who tells me that this guy's been here twice already and asked for it? How do we know that? We're going to go back and dig through our minutes and say, well, I think he came, I don't know, you know. I mean, I think it just invites, I think it invites abuse, and maybe charging him a fee to do it, but something reasonable.
One of the things that I wanted to say,
that could be another option.
If that individual wants to move from one place to another, they have to also come to the city and get the new location inspected by the city, and that's a fee that they have to pay no matter what. And the city's getting revenue from that inspection no matter what. And so that's one part that we can.
Well, do we
get?
get? We don't get that. We don't get.
The inspection for an occupancy is the fee charge is minimal.
But we can go ahead and change that for people that wants to just move and move and move. We can. We can do
We
something
need to
like
go check electricity and the premises themselves.
Correct.
To make sure that they are okay and that nobody is going to be in danger.
Correct.
But it doesn't generate that kind of cash. It's not the same thing as building a brand new building.
Correct.
So the question is, what kind of problems is it going to create administratively, and how are we going to try to track if somebody comes in, and how are we going to try to do the work? Because we are going to have some problems in doing it. But
It would be a challenge.
You can make an exception, and the only exceptions that can be made are by the creators of the ordinance. The council operates as a legislative body, and this is a legislative ordinance that is created at a local level. if it were up to me, I'd get rid of every maquinita in town because they clearly don't follow the law. You know that, I know that, so does everybody else. They hand out cash, they do everything. All the girls in my family go every night or whatever they do to do their thing there, but I don't have that desire, I guess you want to call it that. But anyway, it's something that you do, but be cognizant of what you're creating.
Correct.
There's a monster hiding back there, and you're going to bring it out. And then we got to put it back in the box. And so we need to be careful in what we do because of how we're going to have to do it. If you want to make a one-time deal, whatever, that's fine.
I think that everybody deserves to have a
one-time deal.
one or two-time deal per year if they have a good legitimate reason. Say the establishment, for example, burns down or something, the establishment is not going to be built back on 3 months, 4 months, or 5 months. That's just an example.
But the maquinitas will burn up too?
Yes.
But you're talking about extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
And the idea would have to be that Steve would have to craft the extenuating circumstances to fit the ordinance so that you don't have repeated use of that clause in the future.
Correct.
Councils come and go, individual members come and go, somebody comes in, you have a different minute taker that night, and we have a hard enough time keeping up with basic stuff, and I think that is going to be an administrative nightmare, and somebody who's smart can figure out how to play the system, and they will, because it's in their incentive to do it. I don't know, I'm not sure why everybody needs to move. If you get robbed here, you're going to get robbed over there too if you don't put the right things in place, I guess, to try to keep that from happening. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to judge anybody or say anything, but I know where a couple of them are. I know there's over here where the old trading post is. It's just a big maquinita place. And then over there, right across the railroad tracks, where Mrs. Carpenter used to live, kind of in that area. But I don't know where the other ones are. I just feel like staff has a lot to keep up with, and we don't have that many people here. We're asking Joey to do buildings, dogs, cats. Well, he's not the animal control, but he's code compliance, and then we're going to give him all of this. I don't know whether he told me or somebody told me they think there's like 300 permitted machines in the city.
Probably.
Something like that, yeah.
That's $150,000 a year in fees. That more than supports perhaps getting a little bit of help for Mr. Garcia. And you need to have an officer who's motivated to do it. I mean, if you just overwhelm him,
I agree.
I get it. I don't know what the answer is. We could certainly make some exceptions, but we got to have a real easy way to keep track of it, and that's the key in an ordinance. Make it simple, as simple as you can for somebody to follow it and understand what the heck they're reading. So is that the instructions you want to create in?
As they say in the legal profession, you gotta paint the purple cow.
Something like that.
I think that if there is valid reason, and depending on the place or how secluded, the people that rented out of places. I think that they should be maybe just allowed one time to move, and that's it.
In every permit year.
In every permit year or every 2 years, and they sign where they moved, and that's it. They sign. But it has to be for good, valid reason, and it comes back to council, and council decides whether they want to move, want to let that customer move from one location to another or not.
So I think that's a good summary of what that probably should happen. The problem is, how do we know what anybody's telling us is the truth?
Well, hopefully they have to have proof, maybe a police report, and if granted, that they would sign the date that they moved, and we have a file just for them.
I think you have to charge them something.
Remember that the purpose of the ordinance is so we don't come back to council every time we have a hiccup. So you have to make it clear where staff can enforce it, and it doesn't have to appear on your agenda. That's why I said you make it into a purple cow, so that we can say, yeah, this is a purple cow, and we give them the permit, without coming to council and putting it and having a 30-minute discussion over whether you're gonna do it or not. If you say it's one time a year, maybe, but it has to come to council, then you're gonna see repeated people coming to council. If you say it's one time a year and it's handled administratively, then we do it, even though we may get burdened by it, but we do it without bringing it to council. But then you're gonna have the guy that
You're gonna have a lot of people
moves
stepping up
and says, I don't like the place I went to, I wanna go to another place.
There has to be a good reason.
I think it better be with good reason, and if somebody gets robbed, there has to be a police report involved and brought to the.
Or you
to
just
the
give
court
them one
confinement.
move as a matter of right. We don't, whatever your reason, you can move, but you're going to pay us $250 to do it. You know, make the people have some skin in the game. What you might consider a good reason, or what Mr. Ayala might consider a good reason, or Mr. Dovalina considers a good reason, we may not all think is a good reason, right? And I think generally when you have people coming to you as a council, typically citizens who vote in elections, you're going to try to help them, right? You know, you want to take them at their word. And I think that really puts you in a predicament to be the bad guy. No, you can't do it. Well, that guy did it, and he didn't even go to council, right? Yeah. He's got 10 machines over there. You know where, so, you know, it's the cop. Hey, that guy was going faster than me. Why didn't you stop him, right? You know, that's going to happen. It will happen. There's probably machines being moved around now that we don't know about. Or ones that you walk in there, they're not plugged in, and then at night they're using them.
There's been previous attempts by guys to move machines, and we've caught them.
Council, what do you think?
So no machines, ahorita, have any tracking stuff?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Okay. So all of this stuff is just what they want to move. It's not right now set on paper right now.
There's
okay?
a permit.
So it's just words right there. Okay.
It's a permit. We actually go out and inspect the place, and we count the machines. After we leave, they could move in 100 machines that we wouldn't know.
So as of right now, the way I see it, I don't see a problem with it right now. You know, maybe after that we have everything set, you know, the way it should be, then we should. It is what it is, you know, the way that we're gonna set everything.
If you were to ask me what I think you should do, I think you should charge them a fee and let them do it once every 3 years or something. That's it. Don't try to figure out why they're doing it. Just
and that's what I said. Once every 2 or once every 3 years.
Yeah.
And you'll come back with an amendment to that.
Right. Yeah, I can do that.
If you want to do that.
Councilman, what do you think of that?
I think they're allowed to move one time within 2 years, and the fee that you're saying is a fee that they have to get the other place inspected, plus raise up the fee. Like he said that there's not a lot of money on the fee that when they go inspect that building. Well, they need to raise up a fee for the city because they got to be doing that constantly. Well, at least the fee that you're saying is there. That's
Well, we have a fee schedule in our code of ordinances.
The places get already inspected.
Yeah, correct.
They already do.
We can compare the fee to other cities
correct.
We can do that.
and raise it to that level, yes.
Yeah, we can.
That'll be
do
fine.
It may
We can do
take another meeting or two. I would suggest bringing it back after budget is over. You know, once you finish dealing with all of that, maybe in October.
One question, like the lady that just came, can they move automatically? Because that's probably the question that's why they're here for, I guess.
If they move, their permit's invalid then.
We haven't passed anything
You
yet.
haven't passed the amendment yet.
We got to pass the amendment
They have
first.
to wait until the amendment is passed.
And will they be notified when it gets passed?
Yes.
The notification is presumed once you do it. I mean, everybody in Cotulla is supposed to know what we're doing here
Correct.
because we posted notice.
Correct.
You know, whether people know or not, no, but we can notify.
Okay.
We can.
And it will come back to us too, so
Yes.
we can approve it anyway.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Only the council can change an ordinance.
Okay.
Correct. Staff cannot do anything. It's got to be council.
Correct.
Just
So
to
it's
make
gonna
sure.
be once a year or twice a year?
Once a year.
Once a year.
He said 2 years.
Once
I
every 2
suggested
years.
once every 2 years, but whatever y'all want to decide.
That sounds more reasonable because again, everything we do here falls on Bianca, Georgia, whoever else is
Joey.
involved in it. You know, who aren't here at the meeting. What did they say? You know, I mean, where's it written? You know, you're looking for it. So because it can become a nightmare, as Larry said.
So they
Paint a
gonna-
purple
we
cow,
need a
right?
motion to pass?
No,
No,
I'll
it's
come
not
back
up
with it.
for. He's got to come up with the amendment, and you're going to vote on the amendment.
Right.
The other issue is that it has to fit the zone where that is allowed to be moved to. It can't go into a residential area. It can't go into an area that doesn't have any parking. It's got to be able to fit. So there are certain things that need to be done. From what I understand, even though it's not currently there, and I think it was there before, this is now a historic district. And you're asking to put the machines there.
Which is another kettle of fish.
And you just approve historic and design guidelines for the historic district. So everything's got to fit.
Anything else that we should add to this since we're amending it already? So one move every 2
We'll come
years.
back with something. You know, you're never going to solve all the problems.
No.
Pick them off one at a time.
But
do the
at
best
least
you can.
they'll see that we're trying to help.
Right. Yes, sir.
What we're trying to do, Mayor, we're trying to deter this individual from moving constantly from one location to another. We need a deterrence because they're going to keep on moving on us every time they want to. And if we let them, they're going to go over our heads.
That's why I think once every 2 years is good enough.
Yeah.
They have to
And
stick
I
it out.
think-
That's 24 months.
I think from the city standpoint, the only reason the city can even have an ordinance like this is because you're regulating where they operate, how much they have to pay, having some rules of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a huge potential for cat and mouse games, switching stickers, all of the things that people do to try to avoid paying for stuff. You know,
right.
and they think they can get away with it because you're a small city and you're not going to catch them. You know,
And we do catch them.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
You know, they do things on weekends.
All right. Item number 8 was discussion only. Do we need a motion to
No.
He can't-
instruct?
He needs to bring the change.
It's just
Okay.
a discussion, there's no
Just
action.
discussion, then no action needed on item number 8. Item number 9, a discussion and possible action to amend to the city facade requirements.
This was another issue Mr. Dovalina brought to my attention, and it has to do specifically with the Main Street program. We do have a facade program within Main Street. How that's operating currently, I don't know. I think at one point there was a match that was made if the design was approved by Main Street and it was within the Main Street area. I'm not, I know Mr. Dovalina said something about the bank building, some of the
Stockman's.
signs that were signage there, and some of the other people that are next to the bank, where the old Ben Franklin was, and
Pastor Rosie?
the signs aren't.
We have been, Karina and I have been having a discussion with other people in trying to determine how we had done the issue in the past. I know that we gave the Methodist Church, I think it was $15,000 for improvement of their facade. We gave, I want to say $3,000 or $4,000 to the Presbyterian Church, and then you have a building like the old building that's on Main Street. That's the ugliest thing in town, owned by those people, which I think at some point you need to condemn it and knock it down.
The Amberson building?
Yes. But in going through the ordinance book, I tried to find an ordinance that is created to do the facade, and obviously I didn't find one. And so it appears that the facade reimbursement process, because it's a reimbursement process, comes to council after the people do the improvements, and then that means if the people have money to do the improvements, then you reimburse them. And then in discussing the issue, we talked about an advisory board giving out grants, not reimbursement, but yet there's confusing language in the way that it's been presented in the past, and I think it needs to move forward. Today we looked at the agreement with Main Street, and we found the Main Street is not a program in and of itself. The agreement for Main Street is done with the city of Cotulla as a participant having the program, and the sustainability and paying for the program is with the city, because Main Street doesn't make money off itself. So we need to be able to provide for a certain amount of money on a yearly basis that we're going to do the facade, or if we're going to do an awning, or if we're just going to paint the walls. But it has to be done to where people are looking to do it and are able to come forward and make the city beautiful, make it different, make it look different. But you have to encourage them to do that. And we don't have that with the way it's currently being handled. What we wanted to do was to create an ordinance that would actually do a grant that would come to council and that you would approve on a yearly basis and set aside a certain amount of money to be able to use. So as you beautify a building like Stockman's, you could also beautify the buildings that are next to it so they all look nice. And so the city looks nice. And you currently don't have that. you're gonna build a Stockman's building, or you're remodeling it, and you're gonna make it look very nice, but then you have two buildings next to it that don't have money or don't have what it takes to make them look attractive. And you want the city to look attractive. So we want to discuss what you want us to do with the program so we can develop the ordinance and add items to it so that we can help recreate the downtown area the way it should be. And that's why it's here for discussion.
In looking at the program itself, do we currently have a full complement of board members for Main Street?
No, because we don't have a
director. But we should have minutes of meetings they've had in the past.
We do have.
Okay, so I think
I noticed that the bylaws that they have when they first met in 2007, they approached the city to be the sponsor, or as it's called in the agreement, the participant. And then they took the bylaws and subsequently removed the City of Cotulla Main Street program to just be the Main Street program, as if they wanted to divorce themselves from the city, but yet the contract that is signed by the Texas Historical Commission and the Main Street program is with the City of Cotulla, and you can't do that. So those bylaws and minutes were approved, I want to say, in September of '07. But it seems to me that those were not the original bylaws. If those bylaws came back, I don't know. Because when you created an advisory board, the board is exactly what it says, advisory.
right.
It means that the final decision is here, not anywhere else. And they only advise you as to what they think you should do, and then you decide what you want to do.
So I think, the first Main Street director was Mindy Franklin, and then Patsy came in, and I was involved in it, and I told them, you guys can't approve anything. You can have your meetings and do all the things you want to do, but whatever projects, my understanding of the way it was supposed to work is they're given a budget every year. The Main Street director's salary is paid for by the city in the budget. There's a Main Street item within our budget, and if there's grants or whatever that are made, and they were fairly reasonable, like a few $1,000s, all of that had to come back to the city before a dime got spent. Because the city's writing the check. Main Street shouldn't, I don't even know if they had bank accounts.
They do.
Okay.
They
And
have
what are
one-
they doing with that?
They have one bank account, and the mayor and I have signature authority over it.
Yeah.
But I think we need to kind of straighten the ship out and look at what was there and what they actually tried to do, and then turn it around and make it run right.
Well, we should have in our records any of their expenditures, what they paid.
Oh, we
for.
have, all of that is, I think, is immaterial because Georgia has taken care of all of that. And, but I think as the agreement and the bylaws are, we need to fix that so that we don't have other things in there that shouldn't even be addressed.
So when Patsy was doing it,
She didn't do what I saw today. It was done before her.
my understanding of what she did was she encouraged local businesses to participate. They have a pretty large board,
They have 13 members.
Right. And so they do have meetings. It gives citizens the right to come in and kind of talk about things. And I think she encouraged. Her job was a bit of like being a salesman.
Actually, it's a promotion and it's a preservation of historical improvements and preservation. And she also, if they have the opportunity to become economic development persons, to where they can encourage other businesses to locate in the city. And I think we're going to be focused more on that than anything else. The first 3 years that you have a commitment that was done, and it was done by the city, encouraged by, I don't know that there's anybody here that knows about Futuro.
I remember the name.
Well, Futuro never paid what they said they were committed to because they went defunct. And so the city took up the funding. And the budget has always been a part of the city, but we need to take the viable pieces of that program and develop them so we can go ahead and move forward.
There's a lot of cities in the state that are part of the Main Street program, and I know they have their own get-togethers, I think, to talk about these things. My thought is we find the ones that are doing it well and kind of model.
There's a training for the
Right.
individuals, and in fact, I think I have 2 applications on my desk that are looking or applying for the Main Street coordinator. Karina doubles up as PIO and assistant Main Street coordinator, and she's got her plate full. So we need to try to make an ordinance that facilitates or fulfills at least the promises that they're trying to make to the community by having the program function within the community.
If I recall right, I believe that Patsy, when she took it over, actually did visit with some other cities that were doing it.
She does. She went to training every year.
Right. And I know the city of Cuero, I do some work for them sometimes, and I know they have a beautiful downtown area.
Fredericksburg.
And find out who's doing it right, what are they doing. It shouldn't be a way to fund just businesses that are already there. Like you said, the certain entities that got some money, well, they were going to be there anyway, right? But if they're the only ones that apply, well,
But if it's a way to spruce up the community and you're able to facilitate it, then it behooves you to try to do that to make the city more attractive. Because after all, you're in the process of promoting the city.
And specifically that area.
And specifically that area.
Right.
Which in looking, I wasn't aware of the area that was on the map that was designated as the area, and then I asked for a copy of the map, and I found out that in fact the city has very generously contributed to the preservation of buildings in that area to the tune of $4 or $5 million. And of course, the city is the main beneficiary of it.
But those are public works projects we did.
Correct.
Like the city
But
hall.
the only reason you're allowed to do that, is because it was a Main Street map that fits into the area for preservation.
Right.
And it's historical preservation, which fits under the hot definition that we need to
Right.
follow.
It's a good program. It needs to be brought up to date, and we need somebody to go in there and finding that many people to sit on an unpaid board that's advisory is not that easy.
13, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we may need to look at a way to make it seven or something that is a more workable number.
I don't recall if that was a requirement of the Texas Historical Commission in the Main Street program to have that many people. That's another thing. Is stuff comes from Austin with these great ideas, but you got to implement it in Gilly or Cotulla or
Much
small
smaller area.
communities, and it's not. It's hard to find people to.
And we need to look at putting a blend of people in there, which are young and old, and
I believe for a long time we had people that didn't even live here. They just had some association with the city, which is okay. I mean, if you're a business owner, right, that was sufficient. You didn't have to be a resident. You could own a business. Because I think John Keck was on there for a long time.
yes.
And he's never lived here that I know of.
Well, he lived here at one point.
Yeah. I mean, when Main Street was going on. All right, so
So if we have copies of other ordinances of cities that have adopted it, and if you want to, we'll forward them to you.
what I'd like to do is sit down, probably spend a day or two here, and just go through what is it that we have and try to figure out a way to revive it.
So is this line item just for discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
we're,
All right. Well, if there's no further questions on item number 9, we're going to move up to item number 10. The financial statement reports are not ready, so we're going to table item number 10 as well. Moving on to item number 11, discussion and possible action to approve a proposal submitted by SCS Engineers to perform TECQ Subchapter T related services for the proposed gun range at the closed city of Cotulla landfill.
the city of Cotulla landfill was closed many years ago, and I don't know under what conditions it was closed. I do know that because it is a closed landfill, we need to ask permission to use it. Council approved with TDCJ to build a gun range. I know that you can't construct a building over an old landfill because of the methane that builds up in the ground, and it explodes obviously when it comes out. And so we're hiring SCS engineers who are the same individuals that got the transfer station license, because when I got here, the transfer station didn't have a license. And so there may be some things that we get asked and we need help to make sure that we're able to seek permission to basically build a berm where you shoot, and then you put little roofs with the positions where you're going to be standing or permitting, and then allow TDCJ, who has said that they will take care of that, to come in and to set it up. And I understand you have a design.
Correct.
And so we just need to seek the permission or the right application to make it happen. And these people will get us to do that.
We actually submitted several times to them agreements, and they never would sign them. They never would authorize anything. So we authorized ourselves to do it, and we were to negotiate, and then you know, the warden wouldn't sign anything?
They
or-
changed warden.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have all that stuff, it just never got signed by the state. They never would agree to it. So,
So we're now seeking permission to get SES to make the application to use it for a proposed gun range and see what we need to do to make it happen.
Councilman, any questions on item number 11?
No, sir.
Now I seek a first motion to approve item number 11. First motion made by Mr. Santucci. Need a second? Second by Mr. Ayala. All in favor say aye.
Right.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 12, discussion and possible action on a request submitted by Sheriff Anthony Santucci requesting permission to use the Alexander Convention Center conference room on October 14, 2022, with fee waived for official training or meetings. I believe this is our sheriff asking if there's no discussion on it. I seek a first motion to approve item number 12. First motion is made by Mr. Rodriguez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ayala. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay.
I have a question on his asking for this waiver. My question to him would be, why did he not attend? Or any representation of his office attend? To me, it doesn't look good. It doesn't. I'm sorry to say.
Any other comment on that?
I don't see anything wrong with it. Really, I mean, he at least asked, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
But usually they come in and they
we
do a
We
presentation.
go back again, I hate to repeat the same things again. We go back again to, you have an ordinance that has a rate chart on how you take care of things, and anything that is not in that ordinance cannot be agreed to by staff. And staff is anybody that handles the work in the office, including myself. So that's why the next two items are here before you. It's up to you to make the exception if you want to or if you don't want to.
Well, I had a motion to approve item number 12. First motion was Mr. Rodriguez. Second was Mr. Ayala. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 13, discussion and possible action on a request submitted by Texas Workforce Solution requesting permission to use the Alexander Convention Center Museum on September 14, 2022 with fee waived to host a job fair.
Do we have a?
You want to do you want to let us know what you want to?
We have a conflict.
We have a conflict on that
Yes.
day?
Isn't that right? We have
For the main hall, they had initially asked for the main hall, and I think, did y'all talk to Jen?
Yes, we wanted the main hall, but that was already taken. So Jennifer said we could use the only other place would be the museum room.
Okay.
And from what time to what time will you be using
From
it?
10 to 2. It's
So
just for
4
a few
hours
hours,
in
yeah.
the afternoon?
I just want to add that before the plans are announced and flyers get sent out, that it is common courtesy to go ahead and check with staff to make sure that the date is available before we begin to have problems, because the date is already released and they haven't even come to council yet. The proper protocol is to come to council and
First.
to ask permission before you announce the date. And that certainly hasn't been done.
We did, sir.
No, you didn't come to council, ma'am?
Oh, not to council, no.
No.
Sorry. I went to
I'm
staff.
sorry.
I went to staff and asked if that day was available.
When did you go?
I'm sorry?
When did you go?
I called,
When did you go?
did I go? What does it say?
Yeah.
When did you go? When did you call?
Oh, I didn't go. I called and I spoke to Ms. Maldonado and asked if that day was available, so. But we can go ahead and, you know, this is our first job fair that we're gonna do. So hopefully that, you know, that front room will work out for us.
And the reason why we did the flyers was because we're trying to get advertising in, or especially the job seekers in, and it gets approved or not approved tonight, and that only leaves us less than a week to advertise. So that's why we kind of jumped the gun, but.
What happens when you pre-advertise is you put the council behind the 8 ball. They're mean guys if they don't approve it, and they're nice guys if they do approve it. And if you ask them ahead of time, you don't put them in that predicament, because they then have a free will, as you will. And the other way, as Steve mentioned earlier, they're kind of behind the 8 ball, needing to approve in order to satisfy the desires of the voters. And that's why it's important. The other thing is, the building is owned by the city, and if the city waives the fee, they should at least be listed as a sponsor, because you're seeking sponsors for the event. Well, the fact that you got a $1,000 sponsor waived, the city should be credited as part of the use with being part of the sponsorship. It's only fair.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that maybe if we all approve the waiver, at the end, we can give everybody thanks and thank the city for, and we can recognize, you know,
Yeah.
the city at that point. Right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Council, if there's no further discussion on item number 13, I seek a first motion to approve item number 13. First motion by Mr. Ayala, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item number 14, discussion and possible action to connect with the San Antonio Food Bank in the effort to conduct another food distribution event for the community.
Staff has been talking to the food bank and wanting to have another event. We did one event previously, and there are people that are needy within the community that need to have or help in providing for commodities for the people. And we just need the approval of council to agree to do it. I think one of the councilmen has expressed an interest as well. And we just need to find a date sometime in October, November that we can all agree on and proceed to have it forward. I think the total cost is about $2,000. Isn't that what it is?
Is it gonna be like in the city hall, where it went one time?
Yes, where we had it last time.
Yeah. And we'll ask the sheriff to help us.
Front Street. Councilman, any discussion on item number 14?
No, sir.
I'll make a
Entertain the
motion.
I seek a first motion to approve item number 14, first made by Mr. Ayala, second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 15, discussion and possible action to approve contractor's payment request number 3 in the amount of $68,481.76 for the Cotulla Ortiz Street drainage improvement.
And this is the final draw for us to seek reimbursement. If you go down Ortiz, you see that they finished the work, created a retaining wall. We had to finish the project, and I believe we're in the process of securing a drainage easement from the property owner for a certain fee so that we can do a connecting pipe that uses the street for drainage. And again, it's much improved in the area, but it does need a little bit of help.
Any questions on item number 15, Councilman?
No, sir. Make a motion.
Not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 15. First motion was made by Mr. Ayala, second by Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. And then item number 16. Mr. Technician, what time is it? 8:45. 8:45. This meeting is adjourned.
So just